everybody. Welcome to the Disneyland 66th anniversary Orange Grove 55 special. I brought two great guests with me on the show today, Mr. VashSky, host of Freshly Squeezed, and Rudio down below. I'm going to go ahead and introduce these fellas, and we're going to dive into the future of each and every land of Disneyland. So it'll be a very interesting conversation. Mr. VashSky, if you can introduce yourself and let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Well, name is VashSky. You can find me on social media at Twitter, right down there. And as far as videos, I produce them for your channel. Freshly Squeezed, your source of news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. So that's where I'm at.
Perfect. And Rudio, brother, where can they find you at on social media, sir?
You guys can find me on Instagram and on TikTok. On Instagram, I'm more active. I'm giving you some Disney news, definitely hyping up whatever Disney's coming out that week, whether that be a premiere access movie, a new attraction. I'm there. I'm hyping you guys up with whatever Disney fun we're about to get into.
Perfect. All right, so let's dive in.
Park hopper. There you go.
So we're gonna kind of go down, like when you enter the park, we're gonna go down every land, and we're gonna discuss like the future of that land and what our predictions are for that particular land. So let's start with Main Street. I mean, Vash, Main Street isn't really, not usually a point of contention when it comes to like rumors and things like that. Usually not a whole lot has changed with Main Street. Do you have any predictions for Main Street going forward other than just more merchandise?
Well, it's very interesting. I don't really have any predictions here. I do know for a fact, though, that as far as Walt Disney World's Main Street, they're doing some pretty substantial changes from what I understand to a lot of their Main Street. They're putting a bit larger emphasis on the merchandise itself and not the theme environments or stores that you walk into. Apparently, it's going to be more technologically focused, and I don't quite know what that means exactly. They were kind of vague on the details, but apparently there are some big changes going forward there. As far as Walt Disney World, we heard about the Main Street Theater that was on the table, then off the table again, and so forth. So I don't know if any of those changes are coming to Disneyland, but if they are, definitely keep an eye on that story, because that might inform what Disneyland's Main Street might be very well in the future.
Interesting. I always worry about great moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I don't have the internal numbers, but I can't imagine it being a high traffic type of attraction where, there's this, huge numbers daily. I'm sure there's not. But I love that attraction and I hope it sticks around. That's my big fear with Main Street. But Rudio, what are your predictions for Main Street? Anything that you feel will be added, taken away in the years to come?
Just like how you said right now, the great moments with Mr. Lincoln, I just fear something might happen to it. But the only hope that I always see with that attraction is that they keep installing new exhibits beforehand. So they've been using it for whether it be the Disneyland 60th, Haunted Mansion 50th. They're always installing something new so they can showcase more art, more concepts, and maybe even something for Disneyland Forward. Maybe they have an area where they're going to show what's the future of the park. They're always kind of bringing something to that little area, and that always excites me. And I always love going to the Disney Gallery that's right next door. That place is always just, besides the art gallery or the Wonder Gallery in downtown Disney and off the page in California Adventure, the Disney Gallery right there on Main Street is one of my favorite stores to actually go into, just so I can see all of that new art. Going down Main Street, I hope they just keep it the same. My Coke corner on the left-hand side, that's near and dear to my heart. I love the Mickey pretzels. I love getting a hot dog on the way home. That's just my spot. And then also the corn dogs that are on the right-hand side. you can't go wrong. You
Can't
just
go
can't.
wrong.
So just keep it the way it is. The Emporium is one of their bigger stores and probably their biggest moneymaker inside the park. So I don't think they would make any adjustments to that. Yeah, I think just keep it the same.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I agree. I don't think we're going to see much changes from Main Street overall, anything major. I was a little worried when Shanghai Disneyland opened and they did that whole Mickey Avenue thing.
Mm.
I was like, oh man, because Disney loves, everything is a franchise. I was a little worried that we might get something like that, but I don't know. That kind of subsided. I don't think that we're probably going to see anything like that. And Rudio, I mean, you mentioned like Lincoln, how they use that area in front of the theater to like promote other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the way that Lincoln sort of justifies its existence, right? Is that it's a way to promote. You have to walk through all these different exhibits that promote new stuff. So that, like you said, it might keep that alive, which is great. I mean, I hope it stays with us. So that's good news. So overall, I think we all agree Main Street, probably not a whole lot that's going to happen. It's more of the same.
Yeah, couple of good facts about that. If you guys, I mean, whenever the Opera House does open, that map of Disneyland when it first opened is really awesome to see. That model. It's really quite stunning to see kind of where the park was and how it's grown ever since then. But you'd mentioned the Emporium and how much money that actually makes. From what I understand, per square foot, that's one of the most successful retail locations in the world.
Wow.
So it makes a lot of money.
Before we move on, before we get into the park, gotta ask, when you guys are entering those Disneyland gates, are you a left under the bridge or a right under the bridge?
Oh boy.
Go ahead, Dre. What are you, man? Are you a lefty or a righty?
Oh, it's very interesting. I look, some of our fellow YouTubers have very strong opinions about left versus right. Growing up, I think I was very much left, but now that I'm getting older, I think I'm going right more than not. But up to you guys. What are you?
Interesting. What are you, Rudio?
I am on the right side of history.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going on the right-hand side. I always been a left or right guy. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I am actually I actually always go into the left.
There it is. As we're going through the gates. This is what you hear. Yeah.
I've always been. When it comes to entering Disneyland, I've always been a lefty. I don't know what it is. I don't even think about it though. It's not even like a conscious thing. I'm not even like, oh no, we have to go left. I'm just like, I just always do left. I don't know. I always go left. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, guest relations is over there. The VIP
City
tours
Hall.
are over there. Yeah, City Hall. If you have any special accommodation that need to be made, a lot of times it's like I'm going over there anyway. So I definitely understand it. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's dive into the park now. We're past Main Street. We're heading. We're gonna go left. The first two lands that we come across are going to be Adventureland and Frontierland. So let's start off with Adventureland. Okay, now I do want to make a little bit of an announcement before we dive into our predictions for Adventureland. This video has actually been filmed a few days prior to Disneyland's official birthday of July 17th. So some of our predictions might be a little outdated, just a little outdated. So I want to give you that heads up. But Rudio, when it comes to Adventureland, which encompasses the Enchanted Tiki Room, the Indiana Jones Adventure, and
the Jungle Cruise.
And the Jungle Cruise and Tarzan's Treehouse. What are your predictions for this particular land in the future going forward?
Sorry.
Pay attention. It's Joe time.
Can't forget the Tiki Room.
Can't forget
Jose.
Obviously, 66th anniversary brings on the reopening of Jungle Cruise. So that's bringing in new life, especially with the movie coming out in a few weeks. That's bringing some new things that we wanted to see in Jungle Cruise. Hopefully they bring back the Jingle Cruise. I loved the Jingle Cruise the 1 year or the few years that it was here. So hopefully that's an overlay that can come back to Adventureland. Indiana Jones still ahead of its time as far as Imagineering. The only thing is the running joke of it's always broken down. I have a friend who doesn't live here. He's lived in Texas. He lives in San Francisco now. He's been to Disneyland just a handful of times. And he even knows that Indiana Jones, the probability of getting on the ride is slim to none. Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, that's just operational and Imagineering nuts and bolts sort of ordeal that needs to be tightened. I do like the options of stores that are in Adventureland, actually. I always seem to find my way through there and see just a few things here and there that do catch my eye. As far as Tarzan's treehouse, I think we're almost to that time where we need to take it to the farm.
Oh man, that's interesting. Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean,
I have so many thoughts all on this.
I don't connect to that movie, never have. I've been through Tarzan's treehouse. It's fine. It's a nice cardio workout. Yeah. I just don't see it being there for much longer. And if it is, it might be turned into another IP. Or I don't know. I don't see it lasting another 5 years.
You know what, Rudio? I think you're onto something with that. Yeah. I actually recently watched, because with Disney Plus, I've been kind of like refamiliarizing myself with the old school Disney movies. I actually watched the Swiss Family Treehouse not too long ago, and I really love that movie. I wouldn't mind them actually re-theming it back to what it was before.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I think there's a Swiss Family, a reboot coming out, right?
If they were to do that, I think that would bring that back. Like I said, if they were to reboot that franchise, bring back Swiss Family Robinson, bring back a lot of those people who love the original version of that attraction, that would work wonders. But as far as keeping it Tarzan's treehouse the way it is, I just don't see it.
I agree.
The other one thing that I wanted to point out is the Tiki Room and the restaurant or snack bar that's behind it. That's been big business for Disneyland right now. Obviously the Tiki juice bar that was right in front of the Tiki Room, that's always just been busy. People that's a must do for some people. But the fact that they were able to widen that area and give people a better chance and more variety for that area, I think that's worked wonders for them. So I'm glad they went with that move a few years ago. And Bengal Barbecue is a favorite among some as well. So keep those as much as they can, because they do hold to be favorites for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how Tropical Hideaway offers stuff that you don't typically think of when it comes to like theme park food.
Yes.
Like my girlfriend's Asian, so I'm familiar with the bao buns and all that stuff, but a lot of people aren't, they don't really know. And that's something that you can actually get at Tropical Hideaway, which is a very kind of a unique food to most people, which I think is really awesome. It introduces them to that food. I think that's a cool option. And it's different. When you think theme parks, usually it's corn dogs and hamburgers. So that's
chicken tenders, pizza. Yeah.
Exactly. So a bao bun is different, and I think it's kind of cool to introduce that into Disneyland. Dre, what are your thoughts on Adventureland, the future of Adventureland? Where do you see this land going forward in the next years, decades to come?
Adventureland's had a very interesting history over the years. I mean, for so long it was just Jungle Cruise, and then we get the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, and then we get the Tiki Room and so forth, and then God, Jones. I mean, that's like the reason you stop by that land 9 times out of 10. That will change with Jungle Cruise reopening, but Jones is still king, and everybody kind of knows it.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate about Jones because there was a refurbishment scheduled for Jones that was going to be, I think, more significant than it ended up being. Unfortunately, as soon as it was coming kind of coming close, we know what happened in February and March. So there was just, it's like, where do you throw your investments? Where do you throw your dollars? Who knows how long this is going to be closed and so forth. And I think they kind of pulled back on it a little bit because for what I understand, a lot of the computer systems, they're still 1995 originals, and it
Wow.
does need to be upped. A lot of those things that create a lot of those operational headaches that your friend Rudio has experienced on more than one occasion, as we've all experienced a lot. I think could be overcome with just a better software package, because I mean, there's just so many things that could cause an e-stop. There's so many things that could cause a breakdown, and if we were to overcome those, I think it would be better, not just for the ride, but Adventureland and Disneyland as a whole. I share some of your sentiments about Tarzan's Treehouse. I will say that was Tony Baxter's effort to save it, because there were conversations of, let's just close it off forever. Don't have to manage it at all. Don't have to do anything about it. If we just close it off, we can free up those walkways, and boom, there you go. And it was Tony Baxter's intention to keep that very unique experience around for future generations. And
Good.
And Tarzan came out. That's kind of what they pitched. That's kind of what they got. So I would like to see it restored. I'd like to see something happen with it. But I'm glad it is still around, because an attraction, even if it's not the greatest, is better than none. I would say. The restaurant facilities are interesting because they've now dedicated a lot of seating space. Remember, a lot of those stores that were there have been removed for the Project Stardust that only happened a couple of years ago. Who knew that would play such a role in the early days of this opening that we experienced so far? The one thing I'll say as far as additions to be made to Adventureland is probably, like, okay, if you're not going to have a retail space there, do we have another restaurant potentially in that space, or do we dedicate more of that space to a kitchen that could allow for beefed up menus for the surrounding restaurants? Because they all use kind of the same facilities ish. For the Golden Horseshoe, for the Stage Door Cafe, for Riverboat Terrace, and so forth. Bengal Barbecue. Could we get some changes that up the food quality in those areas, and maybe make that those stores that were dedicated from retail to food and beverage, maybe give them a better digs. I don't know. We'll see. I agree with you, Orange Grove. The menu that they have over at Tropical Hideaway I think is actually really smart. It's really good. It's unique, but approachable enough for that most guests, no matter where they come from, can partake and not feel uncomfortable about their choices there. It's interesting because I think they took like 25% of the kitchen from Jolly Holiday in order to accomplish that menu. And I think they really do a good job. The only thing I'd say is could we please get some of those more unique flavors of Dole Whip from Walt Disney World and bring them over here? That'd be awesome. Because they have all kinds of stuff there. Yeah. I mean, that would be really, really cool. But I don't know. Adventureland, it's a very small land. It's very compact. There's not much you can really do. But as far as the refurbishments that we've gotten, Indy received a little bit of refurbishment. It's a little bit brighter in there. Some sets have been painted, it looks like, and so forth. Jungle Cruise just got a huge refurb that completely is changing that story of that attraction, and that'll bring new life to that, which is great. And Tiki Room, not so long ago, back 2005, had a big refurbishment of its own that breathed new life into that attraction. New sound system, refurbed audio animatronics, replaced the lighting, and so forth. So it's never looked better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Adventureland, and I do apologize, guys. I am coming on the tail end of a cold, so if I mute, I'm just coughing. It's not
Thoughts
COVID.
and prayers. Thoughts and prayers for OJ.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I did get tested for that, but yeah, I feel much better, but I am coming down on it. But Adventureland, I think it's unfortunate in the sense that I love the theme of Adventureland. God, I love that theme, and the fact that it's so landlocked is kind of sad. Really, I really wish we had more room for it because there's so much there. But I do think the future of Adventureland is going to be in just kind of refreshing and sort of updating what we currently have. So we'll see them refreshing Jungle Cruise like we are now. We'll see them refreshing Indiana Jones like we've seen through the years. We might see, like Rudio touched upon, something done with the treehouse, whether it goes to a different IP, what have you. But I think that's pretty much what we're going to see. I think we're just going to see them kind of touching up what we already have. It's a great theme, though. And I hope that if Disneyland Resort ever does get a third park, we get a theme similar to Adventureland in any third park so we can kind of expand on that theme because it's so fun. I love it. Disney World has Animal Kingdom for that. They're lucky to have that. I wish we had some big sandbox to play with in regards to this adventure theme because I think there's so much potential there,
Yeah. Go ahead, Rudy. I think you were going to say something.
I was going to say, Bash mentioned River Bell Terrace, and I remember having so many great breakfasts at River Bell, right there, perfect spot. You see everybody walking either to Pirates, Frontierland, Splash Mountain, and it was such a good spot. And now it's just nothing. I would like more availability or more restaurants with breakfast. Bring a spot like that back because Disneyland needs more indoor dining, and that space isn't being utilized for anything right now. Right. So I'd love for them to bring something like that back. I know that they did some remodeling and that kitchen doesn't exist anymore, but if there was a way to bring something like that back, it would help out so much.
It would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It always blows my mind because they have 3 table service restaurants in the entire park, and you have one great one in River Bell Terrace, and it's just very underutilized, whether it be for lunch or dinner or, like you said, breakfast.
Yeah. It's very, very much underutilized. Now I do want to switch over to. We talked about Main Street. We talked about Adventureland. I do want to switch to a Frontierland, which, to be honest with you, Frontierland hasn't seen that much change for quite some time.
Yeah.
For quite some time. Dre, what are your thoughts on the future of Frontierland? I mean, really, since the Nature's Wonderland demolition to make way for Big Thunder, we haven't really seen much happen here. Do you think there's going to be anything going forward, or is it going to kind of be just updating Big Thunder forever?
Well, the pin trading shop got some, that's gotten some looks over the year. Sorry, I mean it has, but no, I mean it has. It's very interesting, it's almost become an Adventureland because it has been so kind of landlocked in a way. Previous, in 1955 when the park actually opened, Frontierland took up a third of the park. I mean, that's how big of an impact it actually had. Of course, it was at some of the Westerns and so forth. Davy Crockett was absolutely massive back at that point. Huge. So it makes sense that they would dedicate so much to it. But, over the years, it's kind of gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, crept in. I heard a lot of great concepts for maybe using the back half of Tom Sawyer's Island for something substantial, maybe having tunnels that could transport you to the other side. Onto Tom Sawyer's Island from the river's edge there, in order to increase capacity and increase people actually, visiting that, because unfortunately the only way you can get there is by rafts, and that could be a very slow and tenuous process. But the one thing I kind of have heard for Big Thunder at least was a concept for a Lone Ranger overlay.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get into it, but the Jungle Cruise thing has been going on for a long time simply because the movie was coming out. And just like Lone Ranger, which is really funny, they kind of view this as their Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
And it's like I've heard this song and dance before with the Lone Ranger and now with Jungle Cruise. We'll see how well the movie actually turns out. And I think that's why it was like, okay, well, let's put everything in Jungle Cruise so that if the movie is extremely popular, we can kind of move it in and facilitate those additions if in fact those do take off. But there was all kinds of concepts for the Lone Ranger in terms of Big Thunder, and well, they're still there in the Blue Sky world. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I remember even old school, way back in the day, before Galaxy's Edge and before all this stuff, there was even a concept for Geyser Mountain. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was going to be placed where Batu is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be like a Tower of Terror kind of situation, right?
Yes, it was supposed to be part of Discoveryland. And the whole thing with Discoveryland was that it was kind of a Jules Vernean, steampunkish view of the future, but through a Frontierland lens. Very kind of interesting concept. Tony Baxter and all those guys worked up all kinds of art and concepts for that, which you can see in other parks around the world. Unfortunately, didn't happen there, but it kind of happened with the Edge of the Galaxy and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So, it kind of happened a little bit.
It worked out.
Anyway, Geyser Mountain was, there was the whole thing where you were going into the minds of, it's that fictitious character they've created in Big Thunder lore.
Big Thunder Mountain. I can't remember what his name is, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think you see his portrait in the Walt Disney World version of the attraction. Anyway, you go into his mind. And the idea was it was kind of like a journey to the center of the earth where you go in there and there would be effects essentially taking you down to the mine. And once you got out there, like Tower of Terror, you go on some type of contraption and you see some exhibition, and all of a sudden you see that you feel the geyser about to erupt and shoot you out, and that's what happens. You launch up, and instead of a drop tower where you drop down, part of the fun was going to be actually bursting up out of it. Yeah,
that's cool.
And then it was kind of balance you out, with the kind of water creating that pressure there, and then drop you down. It was a really fun, cool concept. It really was. But over the years, it's like it kind of gets bounced around, and then Discoveryland, kind of falls at the table, but they still want to use that Geyser Mountain concept. And then DCA opens and it's like, oh, we need a tower like right now. So I kind of went that way.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say they can use the parts of the Maliboomer. With the Maliboomer underground and then just shoot them up.
That's true.
I guess they could. And theme it heavily.
Yeah.
But man, there were so many great concepts attached to that. It was like one of the first iterations of like a Soarin' attraction that they were going to have there. This was back in 1980s and 1990s, far before Disney California Adventure opened in 2001. There was going to be like a kind of a Jules Verne 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea restaurant where, similar to Disneyland Paris, and how you have that walkthrough where you see the Nautilus and you kind of walk down there and you go through this kind of tour. In this similar way, it was going to take you down and you could like dine inside the Nautilus. And it was just, these kind of, these screens that surround you that created this kind of ocean atmosphere and stuff. I mean, it was outrageous, some of the stuff.
Awesome.
It's just, I don't know. I think the only mention of it now is that, that little kind of, the Chinese fireworks, portrait that was just recently, redone is like the only, mention to it. Yeah.
What do you think, Rudio? Frontierland? Do you think that it's what do you think the future of Frontierland is? I mean,
well, you guys were talking about overlays, and with Rancho del Zocalo being right there, heavily Mexican themed, what better way to make an overlay for another Halloween offering? Coco. Bring Coco to Big Thunder Mountain. Bring some of those characters, bring some projections, bring that music. It would be great to have something representative of Coco in the parks. And then you have Miguel, who hangs out on top of the Golden Horseshoe for his meet and greets. and you have some decorations already there for Rancho de Zocalo. I mean, it's there. It's just whether Disney Imagineering wants to execute on something like that. As far as anything else, I thought the shooting gallery was going to be a victim of COVID.
Yeah.
I thought with it not reopening in the beginning, I was kind of afraid that like this is good to go. Like we weren't going to have it. And sure enough, a month later it was open. So I'm glad kids are still able to experience something like that. The pin trading store is one of the essential stores that some people like to go to. A lot of the exclusives end up at that store in particular. So I see that staying there. Yeah, that would be my only suggestion, is to bring some sort of Coco overlay to Big Thunder Mountain. I think that would it's there. It's just whether Disney Imagineering is even thought of it or wants to execute on it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that working. And even like, I mean, I this probably will never happen because like Zorro isn't really a hot IP right now, but like I would love to see anything Zorro in there. I love Zorro.
So don't you see Zorro in the logo for Rancho de Zocalo? Like you do. It's right there. Okay, so it's kind of like a wink and a nod to that.
Yeah.
They just never kind of went all in on it.
Yeah,
they never went all in on it. I would love to see something Zorro, more Zorro in Frontierland, but it's just tough because it's just not like a lot of kids don't even know who Zorro is. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of people haven't seen the movies, and it's such an old school IP now. Unless they reboot it, they might reboot it. You know,
well, there's that talk that Quentin Tarantino was going to make a Zorro in Django Unchained movie.
Oh wow!
But that, of course, is not awesome. Disney,
right?
But it would bring some more life to the Zorro character. I remember watching Zorro on Sundays on Disney Channel, and then obviously that Antonio Banderas movies. Did they make two of them or one of them?
They did, yeah, two.
They did,
yeah. In the late '90s, aughts sort of era. So
yeah, there's a reason you don't know whether there's one or two.
Yeah,
it was bad. It was not worth it.
I remember it was with him and Catherine Zeta-Jones, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Catherine Zeta-Jones, yes. Definitely.
But yeah, I love Zorro, so that would be great if they were to say, let's bring him back.
Bring him back. That would be awesome. I would love that. We'll see what happens with Frontierland. You know, I mean, there's potential there. We'll see what they do with it. So now moving up the park a little bit, we're going to go to New Orleans Square and Critter Country. Now, this is going to be very, very interesting because with
there's no turning back now.
Because that okay.
There you go. Exactly. No turning back now, as Paul Freed says. That with the Princess and the Frog, you know, kind of moving into this, you know, Splash Mountain, that re-theme. It changes the equation quite a bit for both New Orleans Square and Critter Country. Rudio, what do you think this means, the Splash Mountain re-theme means for the future of both of these lands?
With Princess and the Frog being installed into that Splash Mountain attraction, it's putting everyone on notice as far as anything else there. Obviously, Haunted Mansion, there's no way they're changing that. They just put money into it. There's no way that attraction goes anywhere. It's everything surrounding it. So the one thing that what's been shown from a few vloggers is Le Baton Rouge. Le Baton Rouge is the store that's pretty adjacent right next to Blue Bayou. That has been rumored to be a new beignet spot. So what would be from the Princess and the Frog movies, Tiana's Palace? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
There's speculation that would be a location for that. Mind you, we already have a beignet spot literally right around the corner where you have your mint juleps in the French Square and whatnot. So it'd be pretty interesting if they keep both locations, because the beignet location that they have right now does get pretty crowded, and it is a pretty tight spot because you have the exit of the train or the guests who are coming off the train hitting that one area, and also the bathrooms. And that spot right there, if you are claustrophobic,
It's bad. It's like the Trinity of Hell or something like that. It's like it's because those restrooms are like the only ones for a long time till Hungry Bear and until anywhere in eventually in Frontierland. So those are some of the most used restrooms in the park.
Oh yeah,
very interesting. They haven't been redone.
Oh yeah.
They smell and look like it, but but no, I mean with the beignets there, and then they tried to go mobile order. That didn't really work out because people kind of congregate where mobile order is placed, and you just need a place for them to do that, and that's just not compatible with that. From what I've heard of the Baton Rouge location, if the dresses and everything, like some of that stuff's still there. They haven't really done anything with it. So I wonder what they are going to do with it. I mean, because I think it's like you said. I mean, with Tiana's known for her beignets in the movie. It'd be such a perfect fit. Whether or not there
absolutely.
Kitchen facilities that can facilitate that. But I gotta think that there is, right? I mean, it would just be so perfect.
Well, you have that area, and then what do you do with Hungry Bear? Do you convert that to a Tiana's Palace and have that area dressed up to be something like that? Because obviously that area has tons of seating, and so to incorporate Princess and the Frogs literally right across the way from the outdoor queue, that would be perfect spotting. Obviously, we have Winnie the Pooh. Do you guys think Winnie the Pooh stays there any longer?
I have to say, I mean, I personally, if they're gonna do Princess and the Frog where Splash Mountain is, for theme reasons, and consistency reasons, I want to see Pooh gone, because I want it to all kind of be a cohesive area. So just turn the whole thing into New Orleans Square. So I would essentially say get rid of Critter Country. I know maybe that might be unpopular, but I mean, you kind of can't do anything else but do that. How are you going to walk down that pathway and half the pathway is Critter Country and half the pathway is New Orleans? It's just kind of weird. I would rather see the Pooh ride turned into like a kid-friendly dark ride to Princess and the Frog. Maybe have it themed to the alligator or something. But have it match Splash Mountain or the Princess and the Frog version of that ride. And Hungry Bear would kind of fall into that as well. You'd have to make that a New Orleans Square kind of on the bayou kind of restaurant, which would actually be gorgeous
with Southern food and whatnot. It's perfect there.
Perfect. Yeah. Just if they give the proper budget, they can convert Critter Country into a nice little New Orleans Square, little nook back there. It'd be kind of nice back there. What do you think, Dre? Or what are you feeling on that?
Well, the rumors indicate that the gator, which I cannot remember his name for the life. Louis.
Louis,
right? Is Lewis or whatever? Okay.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Lewis. Yeah. That he's going to be the star of the Splash Mountain overlay. And you might be trying to get his trumpet the whole way through. And that's what takes you through that kind of story. So that's the kind of the rumor with the Splash Mountain overhaul. So I would prefer it if they did retheme Pooh to a Princess and the Frog, or just something that Cole, that kind of goes with it a little bit more than it would now. I'd like to see, if you're going to do it, you'd have to do something about the pine trees, I suppose. But I would like that area to be an extension of like New Orleans Square, but of like the bayous of Louisiana. They're so distinctive. I think it would be a kind of a natural extension. We already see a little bit of that in the kind of forward section of Pirates of the Caribbean. Obviously, the Blue Bayou and stuff like that. I would like to see kind of that brought to that. I don't quite know how you accomplish that, and then what happens to David Crockett's Explorer canoes. I don't know. I'm not sure, but there are definitely questions. I think it can work. I think you can do it. Does New Orleans Square get a third e-ticket right there as part of that? I think it does. We'll see.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they can kind of put the Davy Crockett canoes more on the Tom Sawyer Island side. Maybe you enter from that, so it's more encompassing of that theme. Maybe I don't know if that would work. I don't know.
Maybe.
Off the top of my head, do you, besides Princess and the Frog and Pirates of the Caribbean in some capacity, what are other Disney IPs that can correlate to a New Orleans base? I'm trying to think, like besides those properties.
Ooh,
Because if they weren't making another Princess and the Frog, what could you bring to that Pooh area? A show?
wow! You could do a show. Yeah, you could do a show.
The Princess and the Frog show on the Mark Twain was extremely popular. Some people even say more popular than the actual film. And, you know, when they were doing marketing for that movie, I mean, it was really, really popular. So maybe. Now this is kind of interesting too, because it's like, well, Disneyland Forever, or Disneyland Forward, I should say. Yeah, Forward. I will never get that right the first time. Disneyland Forward would say, well, maybe it's all kind of moot because you extend past that point and go out to wherever the new lanes are going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And so how does that all kind of work into this equation?
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm very, very curious how they're going to handle this. Now, we are lucky and fortunate at Disneyland that our Splash Mountain kind of butts up against New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
So it's something that I feel that it's an easier transition, than it would be in Florida, which is more like, I think, in the heart of like Frontierland. So we have a lesser hill to climb here, I think, in regards to changing stuff. I think as long as Disney puts the money into properly doing it, and really, like, I just don't want another Pixar pier where,
I know,
like the Ferris wheel is a perfect example of like the front of it is Mickey, the back of it is Pixar. Yes. I don't want to have that same problem with you're walking down that pathway and half of it, this little sliver right here is Critter Country, and this right here, just go all in and just do it all the way,
Yeah. And it's there's so much foliage, so much tree growth. There's Harbor Galley and stuff. It's all been kind of themed to be an extension of Bear Country, and then like slowly changed over time. So it's all like extremely cohesive right now, man. And it's like, if you want to, kind of bring that forward, you're gonna have to do some stuff. It's gonna be interesting. How much work does the actual mountain get? Do we change out architectural features? Because it's all concrete. That's jackhammers. Does it get a paint job? And how does the foliage surround it coalesce with that story? It's going to be fascinating.
It will be.
How do you guys think they're going to block the construction of that?
Oh, I think they'll try their best with like scrims and things like that. But a structure that big, you're going to see it. I mean, there's just no going around it. It's like when they were building the Tower of Terror over at DCA. There's only so much you can do.
I mean, if you look at the history of Splash Mountain, both at Walt Disney World and Disneyland, these were huge additions that you just couldn't hide. I mean, they were hugely impactful for both their respective parks. For in Walt Disney World's case, unlike what they're doing now with Tron, where the Disneyland Railroad has been. The Walt Disney World Railroad, the Magic Kingdom Railroad. I think it's Is it the Walt Disney World Railroad? That's what it's called.
That's what's called.
That's correct. Yeah. It was kind of in shuttle mode where it would go back and forth through the loop because they to allow for the construction of Splash Mountain to actually take place. I was kind of hoping they would do that with Tron at some point, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So you also have to think about the railroad and how that is impacted by it and so forth. I mean, it's going to be big. It's going to be a lot. It will significantly transform that area.
Yeah. And I think they're going to get the proper budget for it, because I think that it's more than just a retheme to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that if they go into this and they do like a half measure, and it's obvious that they cut corners, it's not going to go well for them from a PR standpoint. I mean, they have to go all out and really impress, you know?
Oh, yeah.
On a PR standpoint, I'll ask you guys this as well. A lot of these attractions, when they're going through their last month, they have a farewell tour. We saw it with Tower of Terror. We've seen it before. Because of the magnitude of Princess and the Frog and the cultural issues and whatnot, do you think Disney will announce the final day of Splash Mountain?
Ooh.
They'll announce it, but they won't have any, you know, it won't be a glorious send-off kind of thing. They won't make that into a thing like we've seen with other attractions over the years. It's just going to be, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just culturally, it's, you know,
It's
and
not
we
the
went
right
over
thing to do.
Bob Chapek's own personal thoughts on it and stuff. That's
Yeah.
the way it's going to be.
It's a touchy subject, and I think I agree with Dre. I think they'll announce the closing date, and but you're not going to see a whole lot of like merch.
Yeah, like farewell Splash Mountain, whatnot. Yeah, I don't think that's.
They'd be making it now. You know, I mean, they've stopped all that product line stuff. I mean, it sold out extremely quickly. It's just that's it. You know,
Yeah.
Which is a shame because that attraction means a lot to people. You know, there's an emotional connection there for a lot of people, and because of this time period that we're in, it's all kind of very confusing.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think? Before we move on to the next couple lands, what do you guys think? I'll start with you, Rudio, in regards to the naming of the new rethemed attraction, because you know we've had 30. What has it been? 30 years now, I think, for Splash Mountain at Disneyland.
About that, it was 89,
I believe.
Yeah, 89. So 32 years going on.
32 years. So, you know, people are pretty conditioned into just, hey, that's Splash Mountain. Do you think it's gonna, like keep that name, retain the Splash Mountain name, and maybe have like a it'll be Splash Mountain, Princess Tiana Adventure or something? You know, I'm just kind of coming up with something off the top of my head, but you think it'll be something like that, or do you think it'll get a completely new name? It'll be something totally different.
I think it's going to be tagline. It's going to be something adventure, something river adventure, a Princess and the Frog adventure.
Okay,
that's what I think it will be called. I'm not clever enough to think of the name of what it would be, but the tagline will be a Princess and the Frog adventure.
But you think they'll get rid of Splash Mountain, though? The name Splash Mountain?
No, I think the name Splash Mountain will be gone.
It'll be gone. And what do you think, Dre? You think they're gonna completely get rid of Splash Mountain, or will they keep Splash Mountain and just add a tag to it? I'm
half in, half out. I think it makes a lot of sense to have like a tag to it, you know, Splash Mountain : something, you know,
right?
As they do. As far as the implications that come along with it, I mean, look, Splash Mountain didn't. I mean, just the name. I mean, that's themed to Splash the movie. That was the concession that was made. Like,
I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really has no connection whatsoever. I mean,
for the movie, right?
With Song of the South, right? So it's other than the associations that we've placed on it over the years, but I think there is a world in which you can get away with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have any implications. You know, but Chapek and even Josh DeMarlo to a certain extent, I mean, he's talked about they both talked about the legacy issue, right? It's like, oh, we're this a new Disney company, this a new, we're out with the old, in with the new kind of thing. And it wouldn't surprise me, at all that they would do something like that. I mean, it's interesting. Like, okay, Jungle Cruise obviously has implications attached to that, but we're still keeping the name Jungle Cruise.
Right.
I think, have we gotten to a point where we can kind of keep Splash Mountain, the moniker at least, and have it attached to something else? I think we can, but
yeah,
no, we'll see.
Yeah, it's not like it's called, a Song of the South adventure. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very generic name, Splash Mountain.
It was going to be called Zippity Doo Dah Falls or whatever, or Zippity Doo Dah, Splash or whatever, which would have been much more closely attached to it.
Right. I mean, Splash Mountain could just as easily be a Little Mermaid ride. I mean, if you didn't know anything about it, it would, it could be anything. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see the direction on that. Very, very
Likewise,
curious. So we're gonna move on through the park now, and the next two lands we're gonna discuss are Galaxy's Edge and Mickey's Toontown. So we'll start off with Galaxy's Edge. Dre, what do you feel is the future for Galaxy's Edge?
Oh God, that restaurant, man! Let's get that freaking restaurant. Like that is like the thing. Even in some ways more than an actual attraction, which there is an expansion space. Actually,
Right.
I believe there's an expansion space in both Galaxy's Edges on both coasts to have a third attraction. That would the intention was always to have the ability to expand if required. I think that, we'll see that someday, whether it be part of Galaxy's Edge or even part of Toontown, who knows? But I think that expansion space will be used for something in the future. I think the restaurant, I think it's obvious, like just do the restaurant. I mean, everybody wants it. Everybody's blowing cash and all kinds of stuff. Not just at Walt Disney World, but in Disneyland in some respects. I think it's a natural fit. Come on, let's get the restaurant. Maybe we might see more of that when the Star Wars Hotel opens up and they kind of have a handle on themed experiences and overhead and that kind of thing. Can you justify the cost of something like that in a theme park setting? Maybe we'll find out with those things. But it's kind of interesting that we buttressed Toontown in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in the way we did when visiting the park today. Because I think that one of the most natural things is, can we have a bridge or connecting point between Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Toontown? I think it would be good and beneficial for both lands in terms of visitation, stuff like that. It doesn't feel so much as a dead end, but a continuation of the two stories, and that kind of movement I think will be really, really good for the park.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I really want to see, and it's been rumored, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I think it will. I do think it will, is a loosening of the timeline. There's been so much going on with Star Wars, like since the sequel trilogy. I mean, Mandalorian was an enormous hit.
Still is.
Still is.
There he is.
There you go. The man of the
There
hour.
you go.
He wanted to speak on it. He wants to be a part of the future.
Yeah, we need to have at least a meet and greet or something with Mando. Let's get him. We got to loosen up. I think Avengers Campus did a good job at sort of having fun and not being so married to the timeline. And I kind of want to see Star Wars break away from that in Galaxy's Edge and have fun. You can have the land be kind of like a neutral kind of timeline, and then you enter a time period in the individual attractions.
Like you do in Cars Land,
Exactly. So I think that would be very, very cool. Rudio, what are your thoughts? The future of Batuu. Where are we going with this land?
Grogu, he's talking. Give me 1 second.
Oh, go ahead.
He just agreed with everything you just said, OG.
Perfect.
Do it.
Absolutely perfect.
Get this little guy in the parks. Get him in a meet and greet situation. Get Mando in there. Get everything that everybody loves of that show in the parks. It's simple as that.
Yes.
The show, obviously one of the biggest hits off of Disney Plus since its launch. I would probably say even more so than the sequel trilogy. People are more a fan of Mandalorian than
it's one of the very few things you can get all the fans together on.
Exactly.
And all of them kind of agree.
Exactly.
Whether it's sequel, prequel, whatever.
Exactly. And I'm going to co-sign also on Vash's point. Get that restaurant in there. The space is there. The space has always been there. It's just getting the appropriate people to act on it, get the entertainment in there, because you have best of both worlds. You have entertainment that was in the art, And then also another dining experience. We need more Disney dining.
Yep.
Simple as that. As far as the attractions are concerned, I would love Millennium Falcon to get more options or more paths as far as the same one that you're getting. I would hope maybe they would incorporate Mandalorian into that in some way, or maybe just another mission with Hondo.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's easy programming. I know that it's running off of the Unreal Engine. So
Sure is.
get those guys to come up with another mission. That'd be great. Rise of the Resistance is perfection.
Yeah, it is.
I chef's kiss.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's
So,
fantastic.
It's great.
Don't touch it. Leave it as is. It's been doing high numbers for boarding groups. I think we've gone all the way up to 350 now, if I'm not mistaken. So the better and more accessible that ride is to more people are experiencing it, and that's always better. It's got repeat value because every time you think you've seen the whole ride, you don't. You're always missing just one little thing here or there. So I've been on the ride 5 times now, and every time I felt like it was a new experience, and that's great because for a ride like that, you would think it would be a one-time sort of ordeal. It's not. It's got replay value. Keep it the way it is. Just like Vash said, dining, OG, bring Grogu.
Yes. And really, one thing that I would really need to see in this land too is, because I think the foundation of the land itself is flawless. It's immersive. It's beautiful. We need some more, like, I want like music or something, but I don't want it like piped in the bushes. I'd like some alien bands to come through and play music and add some life like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen bands in like New Orleans Square, for example. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's
Dapper
the
Dans.
various music apps. Yeah, something like that would be, like you said, OG. That'd be fantastic. You know, in terms of Rise of Resistance does about 1,500 an hour right now. Uptime is getting better, but it's still. You know what? Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, the uptime of that is just incredible, and it really does eat people in a way that people might not think or expect. Talking about uptime and consistency, when Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run actually did reach its 1 million riders for the first time, you could actually track, if you did the math, like how many people it does per hour and by the day, and it hit almost that time period exactly. I mean, that's how great the uptime actually is on that attraction. And if you could get multiple missions in there and maybe relieve some pressure off rides, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pivot now to Toontown, Mickey's Toontown, which I tell you, this land is the land that keeps on going. We thought a couple years ago this thing was not going to last. Star Wars was moving in. Toontown was a goner, dead land walking, but it isn't. We're getting Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway in like a year or 2 years, I guess. Give or take. So it lives, and I think that ride pretty much cements its place for a while. Rudio, what are your thoughts on Toontown, the future of Toontown?
Like you said, I was reading its obituary. I was ready to go to the funeral. I had my black clothes ready, but then they came out with that announcement in 2019. And man, oh man, I'm excited for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It's going to be so cool just to see a Mickey ride in the park.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like this. The technology that it's bringing, same technology with Rise of the Resistance, trackless vehicles, and maybe it's a different edition than the Walt Disney World version.
I think it'll be at least slightly different because we don't have to work within the parameters of an existing building. I think they're gonna utilize that to their advantage. They're starting it from scratch. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see new elements.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Vash brought it up earlier, an entry point, just a connection from Toontown to Galaxy's Edge, because there's many times I've been in the park and I'm all the way at Small World or at the train station right there, and then I'm thinking to myself, I have a mobile order at Galaxy's Edge, and I've got to walk all the way around through Fantasyland just to get to Galaxy's Edge. How great would it be if you could just walk through Toontown to get to the back of Galaxy's Edge?
Oh yeah,
it would so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, Chippendale's Treehouse isn't open right now, right? They got rid of the side, they got rid of the ball pit. Just have it right through there, and it's perfect. You're right on the other side, and hey, maybe it can give bump in the numbers to something like Edge's Go Coaster because it's so close to that kind of thoroughfare. Oh, perfect.
No, that wouldn't affect the fireworks, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because we have the suspicion that the fireworks are being executed off the top of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Is that what we believe right now?
Yeah, there is at least multiple launch points for some pyrotechnics off of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That's correct.
Okay. So if we were to make a pathway from Toontown to Galaxy's Edge, do you think that would be affected in some way? No. Okay.
I don't think so. I think we're gonna be good to go there. I mean, those fireworks do feel like they're right over your head when they're coming off in Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. And if you wanted to, you could tunnel it or so forth. There's some ideas, but no, I don't think that'll have any impact.
Because they do use that space for extended queue of Millennium Falcon when it does get that way. So
it sure does. It sure does. Yeah. My guess is that that extended queue area that would be used for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run when it does get really bad, that would be part of it. Maybe the third attraction expansion space might provide some real estate there for that connection to be made, but we'll see.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, and it kind of all depends too, because you mentioned the Chippendale Treehouse, the ball pit, the former ball pit. Chippendale, they got a new series coming out on Disney Plus. If that show catches fire, who knows?
I don't know. Maybe,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very doubtful. I'm very doubtful. But we'll see. I'm very, actually, to be quite honest with you, I'm very surprised that the Mickey cartoons have taken off like they have. Not that they're bad. I'm surprised that they're as popular as they are. They've gone on for years and years and years and years. Like, I actually liked DuckTales a lot more, the reboot. Yeah. And they canceled that like in 2 or 3 seasons?
3
seasons. And Mickey is like still going strong. So you never know. This Chippendale Park Life thing might be hot. You never know.
Who knows? I do hope that Toontown gets just a revitalization, a new life throughout this whole thing. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that there was maybe a bigger plan before the pandemic in terms of revitalizing Toontown than there might be, post that point and before Mickey and Minnie's Railway is actually completed. So I'm not expecting anything too ambitious, but hey, man, I mean, it's like if you're gonna have if this land's gonna have a new lease on life, it's gonna have renewed attention placed on it. Let's up the standards a little bit and get it show ready.
Yeah, exactly. And let's get that like we talked about in a former video. Let's get that projection mapping on the backdrop, right? So we can have like cartoon hills and a cartoon moon and a cartoon sun. JPEG, open up that wallet, buddy. Let's spend it.
Go ahead, Rudio.
I was going to mention right now we are experiencing, because of the social distancing and whatnot, a different type of meet and greet in Toontown. So Mickey and Minnie are hanging out in front of their houses. You're not particularly going through their house and then hitting that final meet and greet area. With that going forward, do you believe if Disney were to keep going with the way they're doing the meet and greets now, is there a reason we keep those houses? I mean, we keep the facade, but is there a reason to keep anything other than that?
I heard a very ambitious concept to get Arendelle into Disneyland back a little while ago. And part of it involved the Fantasyland Theater, but the other part of it involved the residential half of Toontown. So Toontown's laid out. You have the residential section, the kind of town square section, and then you have the downtown section. Taking all the residential section, maybe even into that that expansion pad that they have next to Galaxy's Edge, and turning that as part of like an Arendelle kind of thing, because it was just, you know, they could make do without those houses. But look, you make a good point. If you're not gonna, because Mickey's house takes up quite a bit of backstage area, yeah. So if you could do without them, I don't know, Rudy, it might be onto something here.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's just to expand, even if it's just to kind of reimagine Toontown, getting rid of the houses to put a little dark ride there or something. I mean, you know, really, it is kind of like a lot of wasted space. I mean, and I know that sounds terrible because I know a lot of kids love those little houses and stuff, but I mean, they have these entire structures dedicated basically just to meet and greets.
Yeah.
You know, you could probably put something a little more substantial in there.
It's not as efficient as it could be.
Exactly.
You know, there's a better use for that. And as for if you do want to have meet and greets, those could be really relocated in other parts of the land, and in that way, it just opens up the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to our last and final two lands, which are biggies, big lands: Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. So, Dre, Tomorrowland. Woo, loaded question.
Tomorrowland. Oh boy. Oh, the land that will be built tomorrow. That's the one I. And honestly, when you look at Tomorrowland's history, they have stayed by that mantra throughout the entire time. It's hilarious. Maybe briefly in 1967, but okay. So this is quite interesting because there's speculation and there's also rumor attached to this. The rumor is that there will be a multi-phase project. Before the pandemic, it was going to be a complete redo, just top to bottom. And obviously Gio Rodi was attached to that, and now he's gone. And the concept of doing something like that has kind of changed because of operational concerns and so forth, you know, monetary and so forth. So now what I'm hearing is a multi-phased approach, similar to what's happening right now in Fantasyland. Fantasyland has been doing a phased approach to its redo, you know, one attraction at a time kind of thing, and kind of changing those over slowly. This would be a little bit more substantial with maybe some exterior changes, but taking one attraction, you know, one bit at a time and changing them over that way. So, you know, potentially it might not be as substantial as if you were just to bulldoze it all and then start from scratch, but you would still get a refreshed Tomorrowland that is at least a little bit more contemporary than it is currently. I heard concepts of, hey, you know, we have Marvel coming into Disney California Adventure. Could we do the Iron Man attraction that we see at Hong Kong? Take those simulators out from there and then transfer them to to Disney's California Adventure across the way, and put that Iron Man attraction in there. That way, it gives DCA another attraction, which it desperately needs, and potentially opens up some expansion or something in Tomorrowland proper. I'll say, I think, you know, that's the old Adventures of Inner Space building. That's as efficient as that space is, I think. I mean, it's tight. Yeah. And it's tight for a reason. They fit a lot in there. So I don't think that makes the most sense, but it is one of those things. It's like, wow, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge exists. Do we need two Star Wars type attractions? I know some people have kind of said, well, you know, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is so kind of time locked that this provides a foundation for other characters to be kind of brought to the parks in a way that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge can't facilitate. But if that's going to be radically altered and changed, you know, does Star Tours, I mean, you know, how long is it left? I don't know. We'll see.
What do you think, Rudio? It's future of Tomorrowland. Where are we going?
It all starts how Vash said, Star Tours. Star Tours, another simulator ride, which we have a simulator ride already in Galaxy's Edge. From what my understanding, it's the same ride system, right, Vash, as far as Iron Man in Star Tours. It's literally the
Exact same, yeah.
It would be great to bring that over to California Adventure, in my eyes, just to bring another attraction to what we have now, especially with the uncertainty of the e-ticket for Avengers Campus. Bring something like that just so we can hold over until we figure out what's really going on with the e-ticket.
Yeah.
There's so much space I'm sorry to say, Buzz is probably in its last few years. But I honestly, it depends on where we're going with it. And Launch Bay is humongous space.
Massive.
And then you bring in Autopia, and people have been calling for that attraction's head, saying it's done better at California Adventure with Cars Land. We have a better Cars ride in Cars Land.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and obviously the submarines that are just going to sit there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
it's 1990s all over again. It's like, when is this going to open up? Is it ever? I don't know.
Yeah. So much uncertainty. I mean, I don't know. And a lot of people want Tron. They're saying, get Tron over here. Can they do it?
It's so big. It's so massive. I don't even like, the thing about Tron is do we really want that huge show building looming over the entire park? You know, it's like,
and it's not even the entire park. It's literally would be seen right off the freeway, because if you get off the 5 freeway and get off in Harbor, the first thing you see is that edge of the park, which would be considered to be the Tron area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you get rid of Autopia, you could put it right there. You know? I mean, the Autopia takes up a huge amount of land. It would be set far enough back. Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, but I mean, you'd have to reconfigure it a little bit to make it work. You know, the thing with Submarine Voyage is it's such a maintenance heavy attraction versus how many people can actually go through it in an hour. It's not the highest capacity attraction, and you have to have divers hired to go through the sets and maintain them. That might actually play into why they don't have that attraction working currently, is because that's a specialty skill set that you have to have. And you know, if you've been keeping up with Disneyland Resort, they've been having a hard time with just regular cast members, much less specialty cast members. That's why the railroad was affected in the way it was for so long, to get those guys back. So I think it's only inevitable that and a lot of the people that campaign to keep the Submarine Voyage just aren't there at Imagineering anymore. So I think it's kind of it's had its time, as unfortunate as that is. I know people like it, but it's just there's that swath of land. I mean, there's so much you can do with it.
Oh yeah. Can
we just tell the people right now, because I know that there's people that are going to watch this video and say, bring back the People Mover. The People Mover is not coming back. Not the rocket rods either. They're just, let's forget that even existed, because it's just not happening.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's coming back. Although I do have a way they could possibly. Now, I want a full disclosure. I don't think they're going to do this. But if they were ever to do it, this is probably the only way we'll ever see it. I would take the like the Stark Industries kind of theme, the Howard Stark. He's kind of a Walt Disney type.
Yeah.
Kind of lean on that and have it like be the Stark Industries People Mover, a showcase of new
Stark
technology.
Expo.
Yeah, kind of like that kind of vibe, where it's not necessarily Iron Man. You know, you're not going to go and see a bunch of Iron Man, but it's more Stark Industries. You know, Howard Stark will be in the pre-show. Hey, we got this new People Mover, technology. I want to showcase it to the world. I want that kind of thing. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No. But if we ever had a chance, having it tied to Disney's biggest IP is probably the best chance it ever will have, And
have the land be the exhibition in that way, very similar to what it was in 67.
Exactly. You wouldn't even really lose the theme that much of the original ride. It's kind of still keeps the same kind of premise, except you're just kind of using Howard Stark sort of, they could do that. Will they do it? Probably not. But if they were ever to do it, that would be it. I think more likely though, Rudio, you're right. I think it's never coming back, and they're probably going to end up bulldozing it.
Yeah.
The thing is the problem is it's interwoven with all those show buildings. I mean, that's really the hardest part of it is how do you do this? Doesn't reach code anymore. The envelope of protection can't be maintained within those buildings and so forth. So you need, such a large budget. It just doesn't make any sense financially. Now, my concept for it to, get around those issues was keep those tracks there. Don't do anything with them. Instead of having them go through Tomorrowland in that way, just cut it off at the half right there. You could have the load area be the old launch bay right there. That's where you load, that's where you unload. And instead of going through those buildings, you just go out where the people mover previously did, go around the areas that are over Autopia and Submarine Voyage, depending on what actually happens in those areas. Circle around back, and you could either go inside a buzz, outside a buzz, doesn't matter, and then come right back. And that way it overcomes those issues. If the people mover was to come back at all, it would probably be done in that way, because it's just doesn't make financial sense to go through all that again.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I missed the people mover. That was a really chill ride. It was kind of cool to just sitting on the track and just you hear it like it was fun. It was kind of a cool ride.
And it's a fan favorite at Walt Disney World. I mean, it gets the business.
Now,
it really does.
Do you guys think, and this might be a little bit a touchy subject with a lot of people, because I know that this is kind of fresh still. The wounds are fresh. But like with this whole thing with like charging for fast passes, where they're kind of monetizing attractions, where you're sort of like, now you're kind of, it's attractions are now becoming almost like hotels or bars where they're direct revenue streams. Do you think that changes the chances of a people mover coming back now that they can directly make money from it through like a paid fast pass type of service? What are your thoughts on that, Rudio? I mean, Rudio, what are your feelings on that? Do you think that it's possible making direct money from them that maybe they will do it, or do you think that it's still kind of a dead thing?
It's weird because I remember the people mover, the Disneyland version, and I don't remember it being an e-ticket. I remember it was a cool, relaxed ride that my parents would take us on, and it was something because it was hooded, so you had shade. And you could relax, and you could just enjoy the Tomorrowland vibe for what would be probably about 10 minutes or so. Yeah, give or take, because you had that big Tron sequence that was towards the end, and I never thought of it as an e-ticket.
No,
I have my love for it. I just never thought of it that way. So if they were to bring something like that and say it's like, what price are we putting at for this premier access in the States? Like, what would you guys think would be something like probably the price range on that?
What are your thoughts, Dre, on that? Like, what do you think the price point? Because I saw that. What was it like for Paris? It was in euros.
8 to 15 euros.
And what is that? Do you know what that translates to American?
I think roughly it was a couple bucks more each, so it's like 12 or 19 or something like that.
See,
go ahead.
I would pay that for the people mover. I would pay that, but I don't know. I mean,
that's where I think that separates a lot of people, because I would pay $19 for people or for Disney to say, you want a guaranteed boarding pass or front of the line pass for Rise of the Resistance, $19.99. Gladly. That kills the stress of me that morning trying to get a boarding pass. It's only certain rides that are going to get me to spend that extra money to have access that day to it. I don't see People Mover being one of those rides that does that for me. Maybe in the beginning, but not over time.
I was just going to say that, Rudio. I was going to say that maybe at the beginning, because you know what? It's funny because you're right. When they closed Captain EO, it was like everyone was like, "Oh man, we missed Captain EO, we missed Captain EO." But then remember they brought it back, in like 2009,
2010-ish,
right. The crowds were crazy for like a week or two, and then it just,
died again. I think I think People Mover would have staying power because we're seeing it at Walt Disney World. Like Walt Disney World, it still commands, it just recently reopened. I mean, it's still like 30 minutes to get on it sometimes. So, I mean, it's still, I think it still has demand. In terms of a price, though, that gets a little tough.
Can we turn it into a moving bar?
No, yeah, you know what?
That might do it.
They give you blasters, and then they have merchandise on the sides, and you just pick out what you want to buy right there as you're going through. Perfect. It's interactive. It's you're making money off the ride. Perfect.
But that goes with the philosophy of back in the day when Disney said, you know what, I don't want to finance. Well, they didn't have really the option to finance the ride, so they'd say, hey, random company, do you want to come and slap your name on this attraction? Yep. And that's how rides were made, and that's how business was done. I mean, something like that, maybe they can get another company to say, hey, you want to slap your name and put all the branding that you want on this attraction, put it in the line queue, put it in there, so that way they make some sort of corporate synergy. They've done it for years.
Yeah.
Maybe they can do something like that again with the future of Tomorrowland.
Yeah, and companies, we have a lot of companies now they can work with. I mean, I know Disney has close ties to Apple. Bob Iger sat on the board up until recently. They could do Apple, Tesla. I mean, there's a lot of tech companies now that might get on board with something.
Doesn't Siemens currently sponsor It's a Small World?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or I think they also sponsor Spaceship Earth and Epcot? Or did?
I think they did at one point, and they sponsored the fireworks for a long time.
Yeah.
Look, I think there's stuff you can do here. Like you said, Rudy, that's a good point. I mean, that's what the parks used to do. I remember FedEx sponsoring Space Mountain for a long time.
What was I going to say? The Star Tours sponsored by M&M's.
Yeah. Man, that's a throwback. Yeah. It was Energizer too at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this just brings back memories.
Mind blown. And AT&T for Indiana Jones.
Yes, I have one of the little cards from AT&T, and I don't know if it's still there, but there was little signboards as you were exiting the ride saying something like "Never want to lose signal" or "Don't want to lose a connection." AT&T.
Yep, and just that sign that used to that says like the treasures in your heart or something.
Something like that.
That was it. That was the AT&T sponsorship there. Monsanto for. Oh wait, no, that didn't really work out. But everything else, for sure. Hadn't there been like 3 different sponsors for the Tiki Room over the years?
Oh
yeah, I think.
Dole,
So I that would be cool. I know Goodyear was really close to sponsoring rocket rods, and part of the reason why they didn't get bank turns with the rocket rods is because Goodyear, I think, pulled out when they had problems with Test Track. So that didn't quite work, unfortunately. But there's got to be something you can do. It's such a beloved fan favorite. If you can value engineer it in such a way that it makes fiscal sense, I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I do want to echo what you guys were saying earlier about the submarine voyage. I think that attraction is on its way out. I appreciate the fact that they were able to give us a few more years with it, but really, I mean, Nemo has nothing to do with tomorrow, and it was always kind of a weird fit anyway.
Yeah.
It's a cartoony kind of thing. But
okay,
I do hope,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do hope whatever does replace the submarine voyage, that we get something as aesthetically pleasing and in sort of a natural kind of aesthetics. Like we get the lagoon now. I want something like that going. I don't want it to be like a big cement building there,
Yeah. I mean, I think that was Tony Baxter's way. Like I said, how he saved the Switzerland Robinson Treehouse. That was his way of saving the subs. Like give them a theme. Atlantis didn't really pan out, but give them a theme that will make it relevant for a new generation, and that will allow for an IP focused management team to approve it. But yeah, I think it's time. It also is one of those things where not only does it do low capacity, but for disabled guests, it can be very, very challenging, very difficult, almost next to impossible. That's why they have that little theater next door. So it's like we gotta do something here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Disney's been doing some great stuff with Epcot. Like the entrance to Epcot. And I don't know if you guys have seen what they've done there with like the lighting, like the rainbow lighting and the aesthetics of just everything going on over there. I would love to see some of that brought over here in Tomorrowland.
Oh yeah.
And I was gonna say, let's not forget, if Disneyland Forward does get approved, what's the future of the monorail?
True.
Well, there have been concepts for the spaghetti bowl is what they call it on top of the Autopia and Submarine Voyage show buildings to remove that completely. Because if you do, and with a couple of other things, that opens up that entire space. And you can have it loop around or double back, whatever, make it more of a transportation device and less of an attraction, which that spaghetti bowl, that from its days when it was an attraction, that's where that all kind of played in. But make it more of a transportation device between there and Downtown Disney or the Disneyland Hotel, and really open up that space. So I am very confident the monorail stays. It's just reconfigured.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it'll be reconfigured. And you know what? If I mean, maybe we'll even get like an extension to some degree. Maybe down the road. I mean, if the Disneyland Forward thing moves forward, maybe we'll see like another stop for the monorail. Who knows? I mean, who really knows? We'll see what kind of budget they put into it. This will be the first. If it happens, this will be the first major thing we see from Bob Chapek as CEO for Disneyland Resort.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious. Now, I gotta say, I didn't absolutely love Web Slingers over in Avengers Campus. It was decent, not bad, good. But the overall land of Avengers Campus was actually really, really cool. I was impressed with the overall land, and that was a Chapek project from start to finish. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It definitely wasn't terrible. I got goosebumps walking into that land with the music and everything. It was really, really high energy. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the guy's not totally adverse to spending money, So
Scott Drake, who ran her, who was the head of the Avengers Campus project for Disney California Adventure. His previous project before that was Shanghai's Tomorrowland. So that's where those worlds kind of merge. And before that, he did Star Tours: The Adventures Continue. So, to have him come full circle back to Tomorrowland, Disneyland, I think would be a great fit. That would be.
So let's move on to our last and final land over at the park, and that's Fantasyland. This is a big one because just like Tomorrowland, this is really where a lot of the expansion rumors have been kind of centered around. Absolutely. And I think even more so in a lot of ways than Tomorrowland, because Tomorrowland, the two big properties going into any Tomorrowland renovation or reimagining was always Star Wars and Marvel, and they've kind of already utilized those in other areas. But Fantasyland, I mean, you got Frozen, all kinds of huge properties they can put in here. Dre, what are your thoughts? I mean, what are your feelings on a potential, Fantasyland expansion or, Frozen Miniland, or what are your feelings on this?
I'll tell you what. I think Rudio, he's gung ho for this one. So let's go to Rudio's thoughts first, because I'm still thinking about like every single thing that could possibly happen, because I have so many ideas. But go ahead, Rudio.
Just like Vash, there's so many ideas.
I know, right?
I'll start off with the foundation of what is 2021 Fantasyland. Right now, we're just experiencing Snow White and the refurbishment and the re-entry of that ride. And that ride, as far as the first time I got to go on it, the 2021 version, it sparked something in me. The fact that they were able to take this, one of the one of the simplest attractions that Disney has to offer,
Sure.
and bring something new to it, and make me want to say, you know what, I want to go on Snow White every time I enter this park. Like, Snow White was never a ride that I was like dying to go on when I went to Disneyland. Most Fantasyland rides are like that for me. Mind you, I'm 33 turning on 34. Fantasyland doesn't really speak to me as it did when I was a kid.
Sure.
But going on Snow White in 2021, it was quite an experience.
Revelatory, huh?
Yeah. And
That's
so
good.
for something like that to happen to every single one of those attractions, Pinocchio, Peter Pan, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, all of the dark rides, if they were to say, you know what, let's put as much effort as we did into Snow White, into those attractions, let's do that to every one of those. Let's give it some new life. I would be on board with that 110%, just to bring something new to it. As far as any sort of expansion goes to say, there's a lot of space that can be maneuvered. We have that space that's towards Matterhorn, Small World area, which is being used for meet and greets at the moment. We have the Fantasyland Theater. Arendelle comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Or even just bringing more princesses together, bring Tangled into the parks, bring some of that. Bring Moana, you have such a line of Disney princesses in those stories you can bring into that area. I would like for them to incorporate more of that. I know that we have Sleeping Beauty, we have Snow White, we have Alice in Wonderland, but I want to see more. I want to see more Moana. I want to see more Tangled. I want to see more of the new Disney female heroes, as I like to call them, in the parks.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you feeling, Dre? What are your thoughts on the future of Fantasyland?
I think I have it all kind of, I don't know. So there's been some speculation, there's been some rumors about, you redo Mr. Toad. I know Peter Pan kind of got a redo, but let's be honest, it was kind of slight, especially compared to Snow White now.
Yeah.
So you can kind of go in and do a little bit more with that. Alice in Wonderland just got redone. Snow White just got redone. That leaves Pinocchio. And Pinocchio was always one that Tony Baxter just kind of said, hey, like, out of our like category of films, which didn't, there weren't a lot at that point. Which one are we missing? Pinocchio was determined that was the big one. But I mean, it's just a completely different company than it was back in the 1980s,
Oh yeah.
So I think the one that really makes sense in there is Tangled.
Yeah.
I think Tangled makes a whole lot of sense. You practically have the tower as it exists right there. They did overlay that tower for a little bit of time to make it Rapunzel's tower, so a little bit of reconfiguration there.
Which, not to interrupt, but is actually kind of a big sign that they were considering it. I think.
Yeah.
Good point. I think it makes sense there. It's one of the larger. I mean, I think it is the largest of the original of the kind of the dark the Fantasyland dark rides. So there's so much potential you can do there. I think it just makes sense. But that goes over to, okay, well, everything surrounding Small World Mall. What can you do with that? Kind of gets over into Tomorrowland a little bit. And I'd say this. I think the Fantasyland Theater should go. I do think a theater should exist in Disneyland, though. So, I mean, if there's nothing else that can be done with it, I would like an actual enclosed theater where you can actually have real performances and all that kind of stuff. I think it'd be really great. And then for these kind of motorboat cruise area, I would do like an Arendelle kind of thing. Where you could have, I mean, I know we've said this multiple times in DMs and so forth on Twitter, like, man, just like Disneyland needs kind of coasters, they kind of need the coasters that Walt Disney World has in its Magic Kingdom park. And so, they have the, what is it? The kind of sleigh ride going into, I think it's Hong Kong, and maybe Paris might get a version of it as well. It's the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, but with a Frozen overlay attached to it. I would very much dig that for sure. And if you can't get like a Beast Castle like it is in Tokyo Disneyland, what if you were to take that same ride, kind of storytelling, that ride system and so forth, and make it into a Frozen attraction, and those attractions just kind of buttress up with each other. It plays right into the Matterhorn, and boom, there you go. That would be, I mean, I dig that like a lot.
Yeah, that would definitely be great. I mean, yeah, you're right. It would play beautifully into the Matterhorn as a backdrop. It would fulfill that need to have it. To have like more of a aesthetically pleasing area in that section. Like right now, it's not that great looking.
Yeah.
It's a defunct, motorboat area and the Autopia. To have a beautiful Arendelle back there would just look so great. I would love that. And one thing I would like to see them do as well is with the Small World area. There's something about that whole. I love Small World. The facade, is beautiful. Love it. I just wish they would incorporate some of like the more charming qualities of Fantasyland in that whole section. It just feels like a separate thing, kind of almost. Kind of extend that European kind of village thing into that a little more than they do now. I don't know. It just feels Small World in that whole little mall area just feels a little more, even though it's technically Fantasyland, it always felt separate to me. It never felt like a cohesive part of Fantasyland.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That was all built in there for Light Magic, and it really was focused on that show, and you can kind of see like how that all works. It just, I mean, a lot of the infrastructure is great to have there, but we could do a little bit better, like you said, Orange Grove. I think we can. And look, if you don't like the Frozen stuff, you can still have the sleigh ride. But what if you, go more roller coaster ish? There was a concept. It was born out of the I don't know if you've heard like the Fire Mountain kind of roller coaster that they had bubbling up for a long time as part of Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World, and then they rethemed it to Moana, and it was so close to getting approved, but it just didn't happen. What if you took that concept and dropped it right there in kind of that area? I mean, that would be cool too, and that way you have a range of things. You have fire and ice, you just have just all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so that I'd be open to that as well.
That would be really interesting. I would love to see something like that. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. There's a huge spot of land there. I mean, you could take multiple Matterhorns and put them in that land. It's that big. As long as you use it right, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Rudio, what are your thoughts on like adding like a villain ride or something? Do you think that would be kind of cool?
Villains are like what I would want to see in parks the most. I don't think there's enough representation of the villains because we have like, I'm a big comics guy, and I've always thought that DC Comics has the best gallery of villains. Second, Disney, and they're not even a comic book company, but the villains that Disney has, and especially during these Halloween seasons and the Halloween overlays, it's great that we get to see them for a few months here or there, but to have some sort of maybe an attraction or a show or a meet and greet area that would be year round, I would be on board for that. Something, you don't even have to make it so elaborate, but just a space so that Maleficent or the Evil Queen or Gaston or any of the wide variety of villains can just, they're going to be there, and you can count on having an interaction with them. That's something I'd be open for.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. What do you think, Dre? Like, would you be open to like maybe like some dark rides seen through like the villain perspective, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there have been a multitude of villains concepts, that have existed over the years. Even going as far back as like, hey, retheming, well, now the Incredicoaster, but California Screaming into a villains type thing with Ursula's tentacles popping up, and she's just about to latch on to you, and then you launch out, just that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that would be fantastic. George is our buddy George, who's currently on vacation at Walt Disney World, and I'm very, very jealous.
Hi, George.
Hello there, sir. We think about you. We do. Some of his concepts, back in there would be really fantastic and cool. What if you had almost like a Diagon Alley kind of thing where you have, instead of the dragon that looks over, Gringotts, you have Maleficent, and she's breathing green fire, every once in a while. I mean, there's so much you could. I'm just telling you guys, there's so much land back there. There's just limitless possibilities.
And can you imagine? Could you imagine? Like, let's say, maybe there's like some kind of like multiverse where like, Disney actually ended up getting the rights to Harry Potter or something, right? Or some alternate universe out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine though, if they did get that, I mean, that would have been actually a cool property, Harry Potter, to put in Fantasyland, and it would have been kind of a cool. I think it would have kind of balanced the land out a little bit, because right now it's so princess heavy.
Yes,
to have something that's very fantasy, but it's like it's not a princess though,
Yeah.
And that would have been kind of cool in Fantasyland. Now, will it happen? No, there's no chance. The People Mover has a better chance of opening up again than that.
True.
But Potter would have been a really cool franchise for Fantasyland. It would have offered a really cool balance to that area.
I always think about that. Like, what if they were able to pull off that deal that was in talks? Like, where would it have gone? What would they have done? Like, that always just comes up in my head when I see any sort of Universal Harry Potter. I'm like, Universal did it right, but what would have Disney done? What was Disney's approach to that? I'm always curious to see what would that have been.
Apparently, Tony Baxter did the whole model and stuff. I mean, they did it, and apparently, I think it was going to go in Magic Kingdom, where the new Fantasyland was eventually earmarked, and where that propped up. And there was like a witch's almost teacups attraction and stuff like that. And look, the good thing about Universal getting it was that they were able to throw the money at it and translate J.K. Rowling's vision to a T, and so that started the hyper immersive land concept that we're seeing and so famous in the industry now. And so I'm always appreciative of that maybe it was best that Disney didn't get that, only because it forwarded the industry and didn't keep it kind of there was like a kind of a rut there. But hey, like Orange Grove said, I think it would have been fascinating had that gone by.
Yeah, and you're right. There are things that happen for the best. At the time, you look at it and you're like, at the time, it's like, oh man, that sucks. But then in the long run, it's like, wow, that really worked out. Perfect example would be when Walt Disney lost Oswald.
Yeah.
At the time, he was probably kicking himself like, oh my gosh,
He's devastated.
But it led to Mickey Mouse, which propelled his company to heights beyond belief. Mm-hmm. It kind of worked out, and I think that in the long run, having Universal have Potter worked out for the industry in a big way. I think it helped Universal tremendously. And I think ultimately it helped Disney, because we got cool stuff like, Galaxy's Edge and things like that. So
Cars Land, Pandora.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say with Scott Trowbridge, he needed that experience in order for, we'll say it this way, Wizarding World needed to walk because Galaxy's Edge needed to fly. That's the way. That's
there you go. I like that.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Nice spin on it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So, yeah, I mean, overall, just to kind of tie things up, I think that the park has a bright future. We do have quite a few areas that they can do stuff with. The Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, we talked about that. There's a lot they can do, and I think they will. I think Disneyland Forward will move forward. I think we will see that happen. So there's a lot going on. But to close it out, Rudio, what are your final thoughts on just everything we talked about? And
I'm excited for what the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of Disneyland will be. With Disneyland Forward, that's the wild card right now. And if that gets approved, pull on your yellow straps. That's all I'll say.
That's true. That's
Pull on your yellow straps because it will be a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Pull all those yellow straps. It's gonna be crazy. And some of the stuff, and maybe we'll do a video on this too one day. Like, I mean, they were talking like Tron and DCA and stuff, which bizarre stuff. But
we're gonna have to do a whole show on what the next 5 to 10 years of California Adventure could possibly be. We tackled down Disneyland right now. California Adventure is a whole nother ballgame.
In a lot of ways, and I might get some pushback on this, but in a lot of ways, I actually the DCA stuff is more interesting to me than the Disneyland stuff, because Disneyland is so good already.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm like with DCA, it's like I'm hungrier.
Oh yeah,
for that one. Like I want that one to be better. Like I'm hungrier for it.
You see its potential.
Like an A student. Like now then you'll be like an A+ student if we add stuff. But DCA needs more work. It's fun. It's more fun to work on that one.
Yeah.
There's so much potential. I mean, it's like Rudio just said right now. It's like you got the Marvel properties to work with, and anything that doesn't quite fit in Disneyland, boom, the DCA can take it. And sometimes, I mean, to surprisingly great effect. I mean, who would have known that Cars Land, 2012? I mean, even if a couple of years before it was like, man, is this park going to get anything? But Cars Land was just like, oh, it just reinvigorated that whole resort. Really, I mean, it was a monumentous moment in the resort's history. Who knows with DCA, man? It's crazy.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But that's a great idea, Rudio. That's a great idea. Maybe we'll do a DCA show. That would be
hopefully, I mean, with Disneyland Forward, when do you guys think that we'll hear word about that? My prediction is D23 2022. But Disney's known for just dropping news on Tuesdays, particularly this past Tuesday, where they just dumped it all on us. After a 4th of July weekend. I mean, when do you guys think we'll hear word of something like that going forward?
I think the expo would be a good bet. But see, that's tough to hide though, because it's tied to the city approval. So they might be forced almost to announce quicker, because news might get out faster, you know what I'm saying? Because it's the city.
So many hands.
They might have to announce it quicker. What are your thoughts on that, Dre? Do you think that the city might want to have them announce that quicker because of like the relationship there with the expansion in the city? Or do you think that they'll hold off until like D23? Or
if they announce anything, if they announce anything like Disneyland Forward, it will only be to the betterment of their negotiations and getting that approval process for the land that's actually there. I don't think we'll actually hear of any hard concepts that will be kind of permanent. This is the way it's going to go. I think it's a very fluid situation. I think whatever we do get announced will be simply for Disney California Adventure and or Disneyland. I think Disneyland Forward is a little bit farther out than those two things. I don't see Chapek going off script in that. Iger was very much like, before we build other parks, let's finish the ones we have.
Yeah,
and I think that I think they would do that. So new additions for Disney California Adventure, new additions for Disneyland, and then so forth. I will say, the approval process on the Disneyland Forward project, I mean, it's going to be like 1 or 2 years. It's like 18 months from when it was announced. So, I would expect something around that time.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, hopefully it happens. I think it probably will. I think that the political landscape in Anaheim is so different now. It's so different between the new mayor, and I think there's a couple more new city council members that are friendly to Disney, and just the whole mentality after the lockdowns has changed with the city and Disney.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is Eastern Gateway. Like, I think a lot of people kind of write that off, but in terms of the development of Disney California Adventure, that was integral to that. And if that gets approved, that means that new things will be happening in DCA's future, big substantial changes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, fellas, for coming on and celebrating Disneyland's anniversary with me. I do appreciate it.
It looks bright. This was really fun.
It was awesome. So, Rudio, I'll start with you. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Well, first and foremost, I want to tell Disneyland happy birthday. Don't get too drunk or high tonight because you still need to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you guys can follow me on social media, Instagram and TikTok, Rudio. I'm there. DM me any of your questions, comments, and concerns. I was one of the lucky ones who live in Southern California who got to purchase that 3-day park hopping ticket offer. So I will be at the parks a little bit more in the next coming months. So I'm so excited just to talk to you guys about going on those trips and then coming back and reporting what I got to see and who I got to see, and it will be a show.
Awesome. Thank you, Rudio. And Mr. VashSky.
Best place to find me is at VashSky on Twitter. It's right down there. And I produce videos for the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55, called Freshly Squeezed, your source for news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. I will say, Disneyland, I mean, it was closed for 412 days, I think. And it was a pretty traumatic experience, not just for us fans, but for the city of Anaheim, as we've spoken about and so forth. So even though its last couple of years has been tumultuous, I think it has a very, very, very bright future ahead. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dre. And I agree with both of you. I mean, Disneyland's future looks bright. It's a wonderful, wonderful, unique resort. I mean, there's Disney resorts all over the world, but this is the original.
Absolutely.
And
the OG.
You can't. It's hard to match that. It's hard to match that. So it is a special place, and I'm looking forward to the future, and we'll see what happens. I'm really excited for that D23. What is it? A year from this summer, right?
It's a year from this summer. I don't know the dates per se, but I know that it is happening in summer of 2022, and I'm pretty sure we'll get an announcement fairly soon because they sell tickets about a year out from the event.
Yeah,
so we'll get an announcement pretty soon.
August or maybe September.
Yeah.
Probably.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, follow these gentlemen on social media. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.